Hi everyone, it's Michelle. Welcome back to my channel, and we are walking around the yard looking for dried flowers, some little tiny weeds that we can press, and any kind of free natural craft supplies that we can now take in our vials or our test tubes and make really beautiful little specimen vials. So in the backyard, I have a marsh, and it might not look like much, but if you go close and really look at the details, I can find little dried berries and sticks, wildflowers or weeds, things that have delicate little details on them. And I can walk around and gather these things to be used for our specimens. It's a wonderful fall activity to get out in the sunshine, to walk around your yard or a park or the woods and just gather anything that's interesting to you. Little berries, little crab apples, things that you can dry out. And as my senior dog, Honey, will remind you, it's always a good day when you can be outside and let the sun shine on your face. Get some fresh air, gather some free craft supplies, and let's head on inside and get the next step of this project underway. So I've been gathering for about a week, and I have a table full of everything you can imagine: bark and mushrooms and pine cones and acorns and leaves and seeds and weeds. Did I already say weeds? And pods and seed pods and old flowers and anything natural that had texture and color that I could dry out. Okay, I'm very excited to start this project. I've been thinking about it for several weeks and gathering. And if you watched yesterday's video, you will have seen me put out how I made all of these little tiny mushrooms. And I made these little mushrooms out of something called steam clay that I got from a business in Germany, but you could use polymer clay. And the reason I made the mushrooms rather than gather them is because you just can't dehydrate mushrooms and have them look like mushrooms. I mean, they look cute, but they're not going to look like mushrooms. They're going to shrivel up. See? They're going to shrivel up. And they're not gonna, they might have some interest, but they're not gonna look like regular mushrooms. So the first test tube I'm going to do are with these mushrooms, and I'm gonna have to decide if I'm going to do all one kind. So I'm gonna separate them by type. I made these little brown mushrooms with brown tops. I made some red mushrooms. And I will these are all mimicking off of mushrooms that I see in my woods around me. I am grouping them on my table by type so I can see what I have. 4 different types of mushrooms. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Well, 5 different kinds. So what am I going to do with them? Well, first I'm going to put some moss inside of them. I have some different colors, and I will have to decide which I think goes with which kind. So let's start first with this red kind. I brought down a pair of tweezers to hopefully get the moss inside. I think I am also going to need a pair of a skewer to push it down. I'm actually going to use a chopstick. And what I'll do is I'll try to pack this vial in a way that the mushrooms can go in and be displayed All right, so that's rather large. So I think what I need to do is put some really small pieces just on the back so I can get that bigger mushroom in the front. Who is barking and why are they barking? I'm pushing down like that. I'm going to try a slightly smaller one first. And I'm going to try to guide the mushroom in front of the moss so we can see it. Just like that. Then what I might do is put just some really light moss in. I've never done this before. I'm literally trying it the first time with you guys. So I'm just going to put a light amount in so that I'm not obscuring the whole mushroom. Now I think I'm going to put a smaller mushroom in, one that might go, or maybe I'll make him a little bit sideways. And I feel like I need a little texture in there, not just this moss. So maybe I need to, before I put him in there, maybe I'll add a little bit of white moss or this natural light bit, just so that there's a little bit of difference there. And I'm trying to think what else I could put in there that won't take away from the mushrooms, that will add texture. So let me show. So see, I've added just a little bit of a different color there. Now let's try this guy in. I want a bit of simplicity. I don't want it to be complicated. I'm going to be decorating the vials, so I don't want to over decorate the inside. I want them to be somewhat simple. I don't like how they're both at the same angle. That's not interesting enough for me. I'll put him at that angle. All right, now let's put in maybe a little bit more brown or natural and some green. And we'll put in another one. This one is kind of big, which is interesting to me because it can kind of go on the top. And I'll try to see if I can get some moss behind it. Maybe I need to put the moss in first. Let's see if we put the moss in first and push it down in the back of the test tube. If we put in the mushroom, maybe then we can get some more behind it. And again, I like the cap on this one. It's very decorative. It has the white spots. So I certainly don't want the white spots to not show. So I'm gonna keep rotating it. I think that's a nice little mushroom. I'll put some white on the top or some lighter on the top. And then I'll put the cork in. Sorry, my dogs are being very expressive. The key is to fill them first and then we will decorate them after. So this is the first one. Let me move on to another mushroom one. Okay, another one. Now this one I think I want to try with these tall ones. So I just think I want more natural. So we'll put the little guy in there first. I'm gonna make him move all the way down. I'm just kind of prompting him to gently move. And that's a good position. And then we'll get this guy back in. His stem needs to be in front of that moss. This is probably where either needle nose pliers or there we go, needle nose pliers or the long pincher works. Okay, now I want to get some of this darker behind it. There we go. Nice. I really like the colors of this. It's got a nice effect. All right, let's see what we can put in there now. I'm not sure I want another long one. Maybe do I want one that's not straight up? Let's see. Yeah, I think that would make me a little crazy if it wasn't quite straight. And then I wonder if I do this guy has a nice brown cap. It's a little bit big, but oh, I like how it curves there. So let's see if we can fill in some of the space around him to better support his shape. And also can you see? I really like how there's such interest in the shapes. I might even turn the stem just slightly so you can see the curve of that stem, like that, and get some of that moss underneath. It's so fun to play and create these little magical. Now, what can you do if you don't have mushrooms like this? Well, you can, craft stores do sell little tiny versions of mushrooms. They may not be as realistic. There may be mushrooms within some flower or floral arrangements that you are able to piece out. So that's another option. But we are going to work with more than mushrooms today, so don't you worry. So that's the second one. And I really love that one. It feels so authentic to me. So I'm going to put that one near this one. Okay. Now we have the brown mushrooms and these little white ones. And I think because there's so much white on the first two, I'm going to put this aside. And I think I want to work with the browns. So let me grab another test tube. So now I'm going to speed up the video because I want to show you a lot of different types of test tubes that I'm going to do today. And the process is pretty much the same. So I want to finish up my clay mushrooms just with a couple other choices. I'm showing you some lichen. When I walk through the woods, I find these puffs of lichen on the trail. They fall from the trees. Sometimes they're on the bark. And I just dry them out. I put them on some paper towels in my house, and within a week or so they're dried out, and I just collect them in a bag, and I'm just adding them to the test tube because the lichen adds a slightly different color, definitely adds a different texture. And I think the success of these test tubes is varying the items inside and the colors and textures. As I said before, because I know I want to further decorate these test tubes, I don't want them too crazy. I don't want them to be so distracting that anything else I do to them makes them too busy. So I'm adding some bark paper, which is just basically this thin kind of bark that's on the outside of birch trees. And the reason why I feel like this isn't too much is because it's all in the same color palette family. It's all whites and creams and natural colors, and then of course the browns of the mushrooms. So as I'm building this test tube, I'm staying within the same color family, and even though I'm adding interest with textures and different tones, it won't be so crazy to look at when it's all said and done. So I'm just going to continue to fill it piece by piece, just layering as I go. I love that so many of these things you can find out in your own green spaces and woods around you. And hopefully you're not investing too much in making a project like this, but these would be wonderful for shower gifts. They'd be great as little gifts for friends. They would be terrific in as stocking stuffers or little gifts at holiday times or birthdays, depending on what theme you do. Really, I love these little vessels. They would look beautiful on a shelf, in a basket. I also like the idea of taking like white dried beans and putting them like in a bowl and then standing these test tubes up in that. So that, you know, they're a great little home decor piece, just as they are. So here are the 3 mushroom test tubes I made, and let's move on. Okay, I'm going to start with a fall themed. And I'm going to use things that I found around my yard, around my neighbor's yard, in the woods, dried up in my garden, on the side of the road, you name it. Okay, I'm going to start with these little like acorn nuggets, I'll call them. They're just these teeny tiny acorns that haven't really, they weren't, for whatever reason, they never made it on the tree to be full-fledged acorns. And I am a little careful about using acorns because I've had a bad experience in the past with little friends laying eggs in acorns, and then I bring them in the house, and then I have critters being born in my decorations. So I'm very careful to choose like acorns that I know won't turn into something. And these sort of enclosed caps I've had very good luck with, so I'm feeling good about them. So I'm going to do 3 because I like to do things in groupings of 3. I'm going to try to get them kind of close to each other. And then I think I want something tall and thin here. So I might put like a little stick in there. Let's see if I can push it down with. And I have these maple, helicopters that I dried out from last season, I think. I can throw a couple in there. And I want to put a little lichen in because I like that texture a lot. And then I'll have to put a little moss in just for consistency. See if I can feed that in there. It's really just about playing with textures and items. Not making it too crowded so that you can't see the individual items. Which I'm trying not to do. Now, because it's autumn, it might be really neat to have a little burst of color there. So I went through my old florals. Everybody's got some silk florals in their house, right? And I found little tiny sprigs from those, which I think I'm going to feed in, if I can get them in, without breaking anything, to add to the color. I might need to use my needle nose pliers to get them in the right spot, just so there's a burst of color there. I'm going to put some moss back on the top here. Feed some of it in back. To cradle it a little bit. I don't like that green. I think I'll put another one of those in there. I might put a little mushroom because it would be cute. Maybe one that's a little bit more detailed. Well, let me put an acorn in there. I'm going to put a little bit more orange in. I think I need a little more lichen. I need some orange in here. It would have been nice to have some down there, but there's no way I can get that down there now, I don't think. I would have to get that as far down as possible, let it go, and then try to push it or gently guide it. Let's call it gently guiding rather than pushing. Hey, look it, I did it. I got it down there. So now there's some more equality there with... This one's interesting because this is one that as you spin it, you can see all the things in it. Hey, I made a rhyme. I'm going to put in a couple more. I might put in a hemlock. A couple hemlock cones, and then just add a little bit of moss on the top. So this one, as you spin it, you can see all the autumn pieces, but it's got great color. All right, let's try another one. Okay, now I'm going to make a test tube using only things I've found in my yard pretty much. I'm taking some natural moss, and then I'm taking an echinacea center. So in other words, a coneflower, all the petals have died off. This is just the center part. I'm taking that, and I'm putting, these are literally weeds around, like dried weeds from around my marsh. But they reminded me a little bit of like the texture of baby's breath. So I'm putting them together into like a little bouquet. And on the bottom, I want to make some kind of a little tie and put some moss because I want to fill that negative space a little bit. I feel like it would be too empty otherwise. So I'm taking a little twine, a little hemp, and I'm tying a little bow around the moss, making it like a little dried flower arrangement. And then I'm going to take that and slip it into the test tube. And even though it's really simple, I think it really has a sweet, natural look to it. It speaks to me like fall and wild flowers, and And I love that it's a combination of weeds and wildflowers and some perennial, not perennials. Yeah, I guess coneflowers are considered perennials. And I like that it's like a little bouquet of those things just past season from my yard. So let's slip it inside and see how it looks. Going to go very gentle. And I just like how it fills up the space. I think it really looks cute. So that one was quick and easy. If I put something white behind it, you can see it a little bit better. And I make several of these meadow test tubes out of a lot of the dried flowers from my yard. Moving on, I'm going to use some Tim Holtz translucent butterflies and wings and just these little ephemera packs from him. I also have some feathers from my walks that I've gathered. And I just think it will really, really be cute to make some feather test tubes and some test tubes with wings. Feather test tubes can really just be like simple specimens, a little bit of moss on the bottom, and then a feather that fits the test tube. This one seemed to fit it a little bit better. Very simple, just to slide it in and make it relatively simple. I'm putting a little tiny acorn piece in the bottom just for interest, but really the feather is the hero, and I don't think it needs to be much more than that. So let's experiment with these translucent wings. Nobody's being fooled. These are not, these are not real butterfly wings. They are on, a piece of acetate. And I know they're not going to look 100% real, but I also don't have butterfly wings readily available, nor do I want to catch monarchs and pin them and dry them out. I want the idea of that specimen without actually killing any. So I'm just going to pull some of the wings that I think might work, and we'll give it a shot. I'm going to feed some of the moss in, as you see here. And because the wings are bright, I'm going to be using the green instead of the natural. And I'm going to take the monarch butterfly wings and fold them in half and slide them in that way. And surprisingly, they're more effective than I even expected. By folding them in on each other, that translucency matches up, and they actually look more realistic than I thought they would. I do know that I need to fill in the full side, though, after putting it the first time. I don't want it to be, in the back. I want to make sure there's moss in the back. But I didn't want to put green moss in the back because I didn't want the wings to get too dark. So that's why I put the white moss in the back so that that color didn't shine through. So now I'm just going to play around with how close together I want these two sets of wings. One wing is bigger than the other, so I think they'll go together well. It's just a matter of putting in some moss and putting the wings in. Again, this is a very simple specimen slide. I envision putting additional accessories or ephemera on it, so I want to keep it as simple as possible. Sorry I went off camera there a little bit, but you get the idea. I'm going to show you all of these at the end, so don't worry if they go off camera for just a little bit. So I'll finish stuffing this one and we will move on. And here it is. I really like how it came out. I'm going to make a whole series of vials I'll show you in just a moment. But I also wanted to mention at the dollar store, they sell these little sets of containers, these glass containers with screw tops that you could also use in place of test tubes, and they're so inexpensive. You can put all sorts of things inside. So here I am outside, and I want to show you all the vials I made. This set of vials that I bought from Amazon was a total of 20 vials. So I kept them in their foam tray. I put them back in their foam tray after I made them to keep them safe. I think it's a wonderful way to store them. And as you can see, I've made, the first set is all mushrooms with natural colors, very autumnal. I just really love how they came out. I love the textures. There's some little dried mushrooms in the one to the far right. I'm just really happy with them. This one is slightly more spring-like. It has more greens in it, the more red mushrooms. I have the monarch butterfly wings, which I really like how that came out there. I have I can't wait to decorate them with more labels. Then I have the autumn one that has the helicopters in it, the acorns, and the little spot of color. This one is all greens, including these green kind of fungi that grow on the side of trees that I have dried out. And I really love the green tones of that. And I think that will be a beautiful specimen. And the last one has teeny tiny mushrooms, real ones that I dried out. That's what they look like. They're super interesting in the test tube, but it has a whole different effect. This set is my meadow garden vials. I have pressed some Queen's Anne lace that never opened. And then I've put in seed pods and dried wildflowers and weeds. And at the bottom is a straw flower that I grew myself. I love the look of these meadow vials. And this one here is sort of a take on fall with one of those translucent wings. This set here of vials or test tubes is really just really simple specimens, holly, feathers, seed pods, and this is paper from a paper wasp nest. They'll make really great specimen vials or test tubes. I'm kind of using that word interchangeably. This set is of sunflowers, these first two. I just love them. They're the dried petals with the actual seeds. They're so summery to me. I have a test tube or vial filled with sort of the yellows and oranges, some feathers, and some seed pods. So these would be beautiful just as they are, but now I'm going to take them to my studio and take them a step further. Okay, so here we are. We're ready to start the decoration process of the test tube specimens or the vial specimens. And I'm going to use two different things. I'm going to use the Stampers Anonymous Tim Holtz specimen stamps. I think they're going to be a little big, but I'm still going to cut them out and see how they go. I've basically taken a lot of the stamps that I think go with a good field label, and I have stamped them, and I will cut them out. And then I developed a digital that uses microscope, herbarium, and other field specimen labels. I've been working on this for a few months now, going through all sorts of archives and grabbing labels. This isn't quite finished yet, but it will be done by the time this video hits, and it will be in my shop. I have cut out a whole bunch of those labels, and I'm now going to cut out these labels, and then we can start. I am back. I have all the little field label stamps that I showed you cut out. I have a whole bunch of the digital I made, those labels cut out. I have 3 stamps, a bee, a fern, and a mushroom. Wax seal stamps, in case that wasn't obvious. And I have a candle right there, and I have my little burner over it, and I'm going to clean out my tool, and we're going to get started. A little bit of like twine. I have some pieces of sage from burning sage that have fallen off that might be good to include. I'll have to see. I'm just going to take a few little pieces off. I don't know if it'll work, but I like the color. I like that they're a little bit burnt. And I'm going to get my distress pad. And I think we can start. I'll also get my Fabri-Tac because we're gluing to glass. I'm excited. I'm a little nervous because I don't want to ruin any of them. But I think I want to start first by picking out. So here's the first vial. And I want to make sure that I'm putting everything on the front. Because I have a mushroom, a snail, an acorn, and a mushroom, I don't want to obscure too much of that. So I think I'm going to be looking for something for the top. And let's look through my labels. I think some of them are much bigger than others, so like that's very big, and I don't want to, although it would be cute up top like that. I almost wonder if I could take some vintage book page. I take some vintage book page and wrap it around. So, although these are all, I like that this is like chemicals, not chemicals, but like chemistry. And since this is science, so let me see if I, as usual, no plan, just winging it. I'm just going to cut a strip. I like that there's like chemical data on this. You know, it's like all chemistry. I'm not going to make it too thick. I actually should make it the same thickness though as that. And if I wrap it around, I think it's like that. And then I put this over it. In the back, it will, let me see if I can cut this just a little bit smaller. I don't want to cover any of the mushroom. I think I need to cut it just a hair smaller. That's the perfect size. I'm going to put some glue stick on it. And I'm going to line it right up with chemistry because I want that word like that. And then I'm going to put a little bit of ink, this as well. Put a little bit of staining. Okay. And I want it to go right I need to really make sure it's lined up. So I'm going to put my glue on like that. Make sure it's centered. I want the lip to show. And then I think I need to make sure, so chemistry lines up like that. And I need to just trim this guy over here. Make sure it goes under. And I need to trim this right here. Like that. Can you see that? Okay. Now, this is melted, as you can see. I don't want to waste that ink, that wax, so I'm going to just put it on a piece of paper that I can rip off after. It definitely got, ooh, that's hot. I'm gonna put my bee. I'm gonna wipe out the inside. Okay, move that over. And what color do I want on top of this? Do I want a copper? No. These two colors. I think I want the copper. So I'm going to put a few of these in there. Oh, they are melting right away. That is hot. And I'm going to need to make sure this is going to line up. I want to use the mushroom one. And I don't mind if the wax drips a little bit. I kind of hope it does. Oh, and I wanted to put like maybe... I think what I'm going to do is put a little bit of glue just around the cork. And I'm going to do that just so I can stick those, a couple of the sage leaves on. Because I want the wax to grab it, but they need to be in place. Maybe this one would work. I don't know if that's going to work. Maybe what I'll do instead is I'll tie a little bit of twine around it. Get the twine on there before the wax goes on. My wax is definitely, I'm going to put this piece of paper back under here in case I drip it all over my desk like I just did. I literally dripped that hot wax all over my desk. Well, my old desk is just getting older by the moment. I'm going to have to put another in there. It's fine. It's fine. All right, I'm going to do the mushroom one. Not that anybody will probably see the top, but I will do the mushroom one. I want to make sure it's on right. Make sure this is completely. Let's not make a mess this time. Oh my gosh. Try to get that wax off before it's, oh my gosh. Probably just peel it off when it's, no, it's going to take the leather on my desk right off. Good job, Michelle. Good job. This is why I always buy from the side of the road or the swap shop. All right, so let's pour this wax all over the center, and I'm going to put more than I need for sure. I'm going to try to spread it out. Ooh, look at, it's actually bubbling. Holy moly. Here we go. Hope I don't get that on my fingers. Oh, I did it the wrong way. Ah! Okay, see what I did there? I said I wasn't going to do that, and then I did it. I literally put the mushroom on backwards. Well, chances are you're not going to see it anyway, but this is a learning experience, folks. I am going to dribble a little bit of wax. See, it's really good, but it's upside down. But you know what I can do is I can just put another layer on. That's what I can do, because I really want it to stand out anyway. So that's what I'll do. And I'll learn my lesson. And I got a little drip there. Let's see if I can get a little bit more light on. I don't know if this is, I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that little drip? I guess while I'm waiting, what I could do, oh, you know what I can also do too is put stamps on it. Oh, there's so many options. That's what I can't, it's so exciting because there's just so many options. Okay. This looks like it's almost melted. Ooh, that's hot. You tune in just to see the accidents, don't you? I would. Lord knows I'm good for them. All right. Let's see if we can do this another. All right, here we go. I'm going to pour a generous amount on. I'm going to tip it a little bit towards the front because I want it to kind of go over the front. I'm giving it a second coat, which means it's going to be thicker now, which I really like. I'll just hold it in place. Maybe drizzle a little bit of wax just where I want it to grip. Make sure I don't drop that. See if I can move the light a little bit. There we go. So what we end up seeing is some wax on the top, some wax on the test tube, and I think what I want to do is see if I can drip a little bit down the front. So I'm just going to put a little bit like this. I might need another wax bit. Can you see that? It's about kind of building the wax on top. It definitely, if you are going to put this in a basket or lay it on a shelf, it really does finish that top so well. And I love that. I'm not sure in a holder, but I'm going to make a few and then we're going to see how they go. The back is actually cool. It's got some good bubbling on it. Let's see if we can get this more where I want it. Oops. I shouldn't have moved it while it was still dripping, because now it's like dripping sideways. Maybe I should have used my least likable one first. See if I can. No. And what other little stamp will I put on here? Let's think about that. I want something small, maybe like a number. I don't want a 2. I think I want kind of like the receipt, like as if it had been received. Maybe I would put that on the back. Oh, I do like this little guy here. I know, can you believe I'm going to do it again? But I am. I'm going to do it again. Okay, so then This is like like the person's name who prepared it. I can put it down here, like maybe to the side. I mean, I guess it should be down in the center. I just don't really want it to show, to obscure that mushroom. So I'm just gonna put it slightly off to the side, like that. And that's number one. I will show these outside in the light later because I know it's a little dark. But how cool is that? Okay. This one, the label, I don't want to obscure any of this. So I think all I want to do on this one is some twine and some wax, and then I'll put some labels on later. Oh. It's just a very light coat. I don't want a lot on this one. I just want the top to be, and I'm going to put a little bit, so a little bit of sealing wax right there. And I think it's going to be one of those things where I could put a label halfway up like this. And this little tag says scale from leaf, which this isn't a scale from a leaf, but it is very natural. And I like the color. And I like that it could go right here, like that. Like that a lot. Okay. I need to take this off. It's so hot. Let that rest a minute. And with that, my video cut out. But I think you've seen enough to get an idea of how these vials are put together with wax and labels, some twine. There's really an unlimited amount of things you can do. You can add charms on them. You can rub some gilding wax to bring out the highlights. They are really just so incredibly fun to make. They are beautiful little gifts that would look beautiful on a shelf. They also would look beautiful on just in a tray, on a cabinet, on a shelf, standing up, laying down on the top of a gorgeous book. They're just really fun, and I think you can see that the options are limitless. Don't forget, there's a digital available in my shop, very affordable. I have been looking for months for individual labels from Microscope Slides, another project I'm working on for you guys, Vials, Specimens, Herbariums, a lot of really original and unique labels that I've put together, and that link will be below. One of the best parts about this project, in my opinion, is that every single step could be a standalone project. The mushrooms you can use in a multiple of ways, standalone project. These vials can be given as little gifts, stocking stuffers, decor, a standalone project. The next video, we're going to take a vial and turn it into a specimen box, which kicks it up a notch. That in itself is another project. And the final piece de resistance is my Naturalist cabinet, which will be the final video, and that takes all of these projects and blends it into one. I hope that you guys will try one or all of the projects. I hope you'll make your own cabinet, and I can't wait to see you again next time. Bye.